Welcome to the show, everybody. This is part 2 of the Week 3 preview. We're going to go over all the games that are 4 o'clock Eastern Time and later. We're going to leave the Monday Night Football games for Monday morning's video. So, hope you enjoy. Let the intro roll through. What's up, everybody? You guys know me, Dr. Profit. You know JJ, also known as J Sleeper Stats. We got a Twitter text at the bottom if you guys didn't recognize us yet. But we're going to go over the Week 3 slate, and we're going to start with Seattle versus Carolina, and in my opinion, Seattle could not ask for a better matchup at this point. We've talked about in prior weeks. Geno does a lot better when he doesn't face any pressure. He does really well versus zone, and even the run game is going against a team that is not a good run defense. So Seattle can really just pick whichever way that they want to beat them, in my opinion, because Carolina runs a lot of zone, especially cover 3, which Geno has even more success against. DK Metcalf, although he's dealing with some rib issues, it looks like he should play incredibly successful against that cover 3 specifically. I don't know what you're seeing, JJ.
Yeah, I think Kenneth Walker has a potential for a big game here as the Panthers are 28th in rush EPA and explosion rush percentage is at 29th in the league. So as explosive as a player he was last year, there's a good chance for him to rip one off this week, considering he could not rip one off last week.
100%. And it's not like Kenneth Walker. He's not going to fall forward to get you 4 or 5 yards every carry. But he'll get you 1 yard, 2 yard, and then break off a 30-yard run to make his efficiency look a little nicer. That's who Kenneth Walker is as a running back. So that's why some games you'll see him have those 15, 20-yard performances, because if he doesn't get that 1 or 2 breakaway runs, his stat sheet looks a lot softer than you'd expect it to.
Yeah.
On the Panthers side, we saw Thielen rack up targets yesterday, or not yesterday, last week. But now Bryce Young's out, so we're going to get the Andy Dalton experience once again. And honestly, I don't know how much we should expect from Andy Dalton. He's surprisingly, nobody really liked watching him last year, but he had his moments enough to where he wasn't the reason that the Saints were losing. But in the Panthers offense that, 1, is structured horribly, 2, has no speed in the receivers, and 3, Bryce Young was looking lost to no fault of his own at a lot of times. I don't know if Andy Dalton can be the one to pick the offense up. I think he's just the quarterback that's just he'll do kind of what you need him to and nothing more. But in an offense that's structured the way that this one is, I don't know if that's going to be enough to even make this a competition.
Expect a lot of check downs and little quick throws to Adam Thielen this week.
100%. And Miles Sanders has been getting a lot more work in the receiving game this year than he had in Philadelphia, so that's something to keep an eye on as well. Even with Chuba Hubbard getting all the third down and long down distance snaps, there should be a lot of low A-dot receptions in this game for the Panthers. And it's just everything looks very perfect for the Seahawks, both offensively and defensively. And now Devon Witherspoon, he was active for the first time in week 2. Obviously, the Lions still put up 31 points, but it's another piece to add to a defense that does have a favorable matchup. Next up, we got the Cardinals versus the Cowboys, and we're going to call this segment Mission Caleb Williams because the Cardinals took a 20-0 lead on the Giants last week, who, as we all know, are not nearly as good as the Cowboys, and then somehow still managed to lose the game. You got to think that that's a little bit intentional. At least in this instance, they're not even going to have to try and lose. I think Dallas is going to make that job very easy for them.
Definitely. I mean, when you look at the defensive stats, the Cowboys, they're like top 5 in everything.
Unreal. 57% press rate is nuts. For anybody who wants some context, the highest rate over the course of a season last year was 40.5. The Dallas Cowboys are at a 57% pressure rate against quarterbacks right now.
And it's ridiculous. They don't allow a lot of explosive plays. I mean, obviously they lost Trayvon Diggs, but that whole of a defense is still going to be there. Yeah. They're still going to fill in for him. They'll be fine for this week.
Trayvon Diggs was a great piece to a great defense, but he wasn't the reason that it was great defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Stephon Gilmore's still there. They get Brandon Cooks back on the offensive side. I think we could potentially see one of those big Dak Prescott games that people call stat padding games because he hasn't really had it yet. They haven't needed him to. But this Cardinals defensive line did surprisingly well against Saquon and then the Commanders tandem in Gibson and Brian Robinson. Now, Tony Pollard and that offensive line is a little bit more efficient than those two teams, but I think the fact that they held their own when everybody was expecting them not to, don't be surprised if Dak says, all right, we should comfortably win this game. Let me see if I can get my feet under me for this season before we play a team where I actually need to.
Yeah, so this offense, the best way to beat this Arizona defense, throw the ball. We seen that with Daniel Jones last week. He had like 300 yards. Week 1, they played the Commanders and Sam Howell. He had 190 in the first half. He just didn't throw the ball at all in the second half, so he ended up with like 205 or something like that. But this could be a good Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb type of game here.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think Brandon Cooks being back makes me a little bit more nervous about CeeDee Lamb because if it wasn't, I would just be blindly taking CeeDee Lamb and being proud of it. But I don't think it should be an issue. I think if you look on books, he's only projected 3 catches, probably something similar for Michael Gallup. I haven't checked that line, but expect CeeDee to get the bulk of the targets. Dalton Schultz isn't there anymore. Jake Ferguson's solid, but he's not going to slide in and get the same target share that Dalton Schultz gets. So expect CeeDee to, like JJ's saying, just work with Dak and take over that Arizona secondary.
Especially since Arizona, their defense, they get targeted on first reads 74% of the time, which is, I think, second or third most in the league. So that's a big indicator for CeeDee Lamb.
Beautiful. And I can check right now whether they're worse against slot or out wide, because if Cooks is back, I'd be willing to bet like week 1, like we were talking about before, that CeeDee is going to play more in the slot.
Yeah.
But I can check that out right now. I'll edit this part out. I can check defensive EPA. For whatever reason, that's all they're letting me check. All right, I found it. So defensive EPA versus wide receivers lined up in the slot. Arizona is the 5th worst defense in the NFL. Again, through only 2 weeks, so take that with a grain of salt. Versus wide receivers on the outside, they're right at league average at 15th. So the slot matchup is even more favorable, and that's where CeeDee is going to be lining up. So, yeah, honestly, expect a CeeDee dream game.
I'm glad to have him on my fantasy team this week. Yeah, man, Keenan Allen.
Well, you should be a little more upset about Eckler being out with Keenan Allen because Mike Williams does better with Eckler out. I mean, Keenan Allen's still going to get his. So
yeah, they're still going to get 30% each. So
the next likely blowout of the week, the Chiefs and the Bears. Now, the Chiefs have only gotten 37 total points in the first 2 weeks. It's very unlike them. But, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better bounce-back spot. The Bears they're just not good at football. I think we have to come to terms with that. They're going to have a new defensive coordinator this week. Their current one resigned. There's a lot of rumors about the circumstances of him resigning, but we're not going to get into that. But they're going to have a new defensive coordinator this game. And usually new coaches and new defensive coordinators, that first game, the team kind of rallies behind them, and a lot of times they surprise a lot of people. I don't think this is the game where that's going to happen, especially not
maybe
when
next game.
Yeah, it wasn't like the coach resigned like the next morning after the last game. This was like yesterday, 2 days ago. Like it's very fresh. Everybody's confused. The Bears have been absolutely awful on both sides of the ball. The Chiefs, they only gave up 9 points to what everybody expected to be a shootout versus the Jags, and if it wasn't for a bunch of drop passes, they probably would have put 30 plus on the line. So I think this is a perfect get-right spot. We're going to see the Chiefs that everybody expected them to. And, yeah, it's easy to say in these past 2 segments that we've talked about that the Chiefs and the Cowboys are going to dominate, but sometimes it's just that simple, and we shouldn't be overcomplicating it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. It's football. Shit happens. But we're not going to go over here and try and predict hot takes just for the hell of predicting hot takes when there's no reason to.
Definitely.
Justin Fields, not looking good. DJ Moore had a good game on the stat sheet last week, but again, the Bears did not look good, so couldn't have been too impactful. One thing to note is Rashawn Johnson is getting more work when the Bears are losing. So for those who want to look at that for fantasy football or for props, target Rashawn Johnson more than you would Khalil Herbert. It's a prop that I'm looking into for rushing and receiving, but I haven't decided yet because the Bears are definitely going to be losing for a good chunk of this game. Yeah. And then on the Chiefs side, Travis Kelce's obviously back. Chris Jones is back. Kadarius Toney's target share is super high, but when he's on the field, it's more like he doesn't run all the routes, but when he's on the field, they do look to design plays specifically for him. He had a solid game last week. Sky Moore also had a solid game last week. It's just kind of like we said, none of these guys are meant to be wide receiver ones for their team. So once they're no longer getting that number one role and Travis Kelce can fill that, they can actually play their play style and their role, and they both performed really well last game. They did their thing. I think Sky Moore had like the game-sealing big play towards the end. So it's what you want to see for the Chiefs. Obviously, 17 points isn't ideal, but I mean it'll come, especially in this matchup. Lastly, JJ wanted to call this Battle of the Mid, and I don't disagree at all. We got the Raiders and the Steelers, another awful primetime matchup. I don't know what the NFL is thinking scheduling these games. But, I mean, I just think everybody in both these games, or in that game, is going over just because the defenses are so bad. I don't even know which one to pick.
Yeah, if Josh Jacobs doesn't bounce back this week, I don't know what to say about him.
Yeah, Jerome Ford just had 130 yards or whatever against the same Steelers defense.
And Nick Chubb was on his way. Won. Christian McCaffrey gashed them in week 1. Like, if he doesn't go off, I have no hope for him this season.
They're gonna feed him like 40 times, and Jimmy G is the third down king. So what they're gonna do, this is exactly what they got Jimmy G. They're gonna hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs the first 2 downs, get it to 3rd and 4. Jimmy G to Devontae Adams for like 6-7 yards. It's
gonna be a very slow game because the Raiders do not play fast at all.
No, and the Steelers are also just not good at football.
They're just not good. They don't keep the ball, so
they have an offensive coordinator by the name of Matt Canada who is not very good at being an offensive coordinator, unfortunately.
Yeah, just if he goes under 7, just know he's gonna run the ball.
They can't seem to figure out that Jaylen Warren is the better option in that offense. So let's see if we can count another week to that confusion. But, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Najee gets a breakaway run this game either. George Pickens' lines are low. They're at 51.5. That's 2 catches for him.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett's, I mean, he's got to bounce back, dude. He's making mistakes this year that he wasn't even making last year. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Both teams are bad against the run because the Raiders' defense is 31st in rush EPA and 31st in rush success rate, 28th in explosive rush percentage. So it's going to be a lot of running this game, I feel like.
I can't wait, dude. At 43 over-under, not surprised at all. I'm not excited. Why do we keep getting these primetime games, dude? I don't want to watch these. Like, if this was on the main slate, I would not even think about watching this game.
I'm going to be honest. I don't even know if I'm going to watch it.
I mean, I might
just watch it just so I can recap, but
exactly. I'm definitely gonna have some bets in it, and I'm definitely gonna have to sweat it out just because it's a primetime game. But dude,
this is an early slate type of game.
I would rather have that Dallas Arizona game in that primetime slot because it's gonna be a blowout. But at least we get to watch CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard. But no,
True.
we gotta deal with these 2 mid teams. Nothing interesting going on. Bad players, bad coaches. I hate it. But
that wraps up our day.
Yeah, we didn't do the live stream today. We just recorded, so there's no questions in the chat. But as always, make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We were not going to be making a video on Sunday, but Monday morning we're going to put out a video recapping. Monday morning we're going to put out a video talking about the Monday Night Football game, and then Tuesday morning we're going to put out a video recapping the whole week. So make sure you tune into those and appreciate the support. See you guys Monday.